Hey everyone, I am Nathaniel Rufflejans, and this is Prime News. So our first story of today, the lead story, is that in Norway, Nintendo is in a little bit of legal trouble when it comes to how they are handling pre-orders. In specific, how they handle refunds of pre-orders on the Nintendo Switch eShop. So, the Norwegian Consumer Council, otherwise known as the NCC, has previously written to Nintendo to ask them to comply with the law and make changes to their practices. This would involve allowing gamers to cancel their pre-orders and get refunds through the eShop. And that's not currently possible in any region in any version of the eShop on Switch. Since Nintendo did not respond to their inquiry and their letter, nor did they take any actions, a formal complaint has now been filed against Nintendo, Sony, EA, and Valve. So Nintendo's not alone in this lawsuit. And this kind of sucks for Nintendo because they're not complying. They did this also in the United States with the warranty sticker thing, although it's a little bit more forgivable when almost every consumer electronic out there was, if you broke the warranty sticker, you couldn't get your product filed under warranty. Essentially, if you took apart your Switch to try to fix something yourself and it broke a warranty sticker, before they would not have to cover your system, but now they still will unless you caused additional damage after taking it apart. So, yeah, that was a case where it finally just got put on trial and found that, no, our right as consumers is that the warranty still applies. Well, that's kind of what's happening here. Their right as consumers is to get a refund on pre-orders, regardless if it's a physical or digital copy. Nintendo, Sony, EA, and Valve are not complying with that, and now they're going to court after getting warning letters that, hey, fix this. So I wish Nintendo would have fixed it out of court, but you know what? They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They want to take this to court. They want to fight it. Good luck. Because from everything I've seen, at least in Norway and Europe in general, it's very much a thing. You need to allow consumers to be able to get refunds in some way, even if it's just giving credit back to their eShop account. I think that's actually how Microsoft does it, which is why they're not included in this lawsuit. Anyways, on to our second topic for today's Prime News. Information on a new project has now come out from Monolith Soft, but not in a traditional sense. This information is mostly coming from Hiring Post. Basically, they've been hiring a slew of employees, and a person on Reset Era forum gathered all this information into a somewhat coherent way of reading it. It includes different subsections like the battle system, the world interaction scenarios, and characters. So let's just quickly go through what they were able to surmise from all of the different hiring posts. It says the battle system for this game, while we learned earlier they were looking for someone to develop an action battle system, we now know they're going to incorporate some sort of character leveling / growth system. For world interaction, the game will have field and dungeon maps based on the fact that they're looking for people with experience with Maya, a 3D animation and modeling software. We can assume that the world interaction will be 3D based, like Breath of the Wild or Xenoblade, rather than traditional top-down perspective, a link between worlds or Celeste or anything like that. There is a possibility that this will be an open-world game because Monolith Soft is specifically looking to cater to Western taste. It actually says that in their hiring posts. The scenario is that this game appears to cover fantasy and medieval genres. It was mentioned that the game will have online functionalities, but it also sounds like it'll be a single-player experience. They're looking for someone who has experience with movies and dramas. They want someone who can create a fully realized world with a variety of cultures, languages, and industries. It's interesting to note that they're looking for a scenario planner, even though Tetsuya Takahashi himself was the scenario planner for all 3 Xenoblade titles. We haven't received confirmation from the man himself on whether he's working on the project or not. In addition to that, he's already thinking about the next Xenoblade title. My gut feeling is that they're looking for some young blood as part of Nintendo's initiative to create interesting new IPs. The game will contain NPCs in towns along with side quests. As for characters, Monolith Soft is looking for someone who can create an appealing cast of main characters and oversee the art direction of the game, so maybe no avatars or customizable characters. Another interesting thing to note is that they're looking for people who can design mechas. And this is all at least interesting to me because we assume that this is a Xenoblade game, right? Like, it's obviously Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or Xenoblade Chronicles X2 or something like that, right? That's my initial response. So then when you hear that Tetsuya Takahashi, the man who was kind of the scenario planner for all of the prior games, they're hiring someone to do that job, it makes me think that that's not that this is a new IP, basically. That Takahashi has already talked about how he's already working on and looking forward to the next Xenoblade game, so you would assume he's doing that as a scenario planner. And if that's the case, then all of this has to be a new IP, you would figure. And I think Monolith Soft wants to expand beyond just doing Xenoblade and then being like backup developers for Breath of the Wild and other stuff like that. I think they would like to do other projects, and with Nintendo's push for new IPs with ARMS, Splatoon 2, even codename Steam, which kind of flopped for Nintendo, I think that there might be some potential Western RPG style love here coming in here. As much as I appreciated Xenoblade Chronicles X, it shouldn't have been a Xenoblade game, in my opinion. If they would just focus on making a proper Western RPG that's not tied to the Xenoblade franchise, I think they could do better, and that might be exactly what they're hiring for here. It'll be interesting seeing a full Western RPG-style game maybe coming from them. Again, all speculation based on hiring posts. What do we really know? For all we know, these people are being hired for different projects, but it's still interesting to gather all that information together and see what comes of it. You guys let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Now, this third topic is actually one that's part of a much larger story because essentially Nintendo's financial briefing was a couple days ago, and now they had some comments from Kimishima on various plans coming up for Nintendo. Remember, he is still the president of Nintendo America until June 28th when Furukawa takes over. But he noted that Nintendo is preparing new software for release in 2019 and beyond for 3DS. Well, and there's a lot of people who are on the opposite side of me on this story that think 3DS isn't dying, isn't going away, and is going to be around for years to come with new content and all this stuff. Taking this to heart that, oh, yes, this means that 3DS is going to be relevant through 2019 and maybe 2020 because they said 2019 and beyond. And my response to that is, what else are they going to say? The graphic they include with it shows 6 titles coming to the system. The only 6 titles we know are even still planned for the system from Nintendo. And the last game is Mario and plus Luigi's Bowser's Inside Story with Bowser Jr., blah, blah, bonus content. A port or remaster of an older game that has new content that's coming out in 2019. And when you consider that, what else is Nintendo going to say? Sorry, before this game even comes out, this platform's dead and we're discontinuing it? Like, no. They're going to say they're still supporting the platform because technically it's true. I just don't think that Nintendo's honestly got a lot invested in future 3DS games. 3DS sales have dropped off a cliff. It's at 72 million according to the recent report, and that's barely higher than what it was at their last 2 quarterly reports. So the sales for 3DS not doing so hot in 2018. Let's put it that way. Switch has really cannibalized those sales big time. And, you know, with Switch selling 17.79 million in year 1, I don't think Nintendo really has much of a reason to keep pushing 3DS, which is why we haven't seen any major 3DS games announcement. I mean, Sushi Striker's also coming to Switch. They're porting Captain Toad to the platform, but that's also coming to Switch. The only game that sadly is going to 3DS and not Switch is Luigi's Mansion. I wish that was also coming to Switch. The quote-unquote remaster, even though it's going to have like worse resolution and probably worse frame rate on 3DS. So is it really a remaster? I think I consider it more of a port than a remaster, but you guys do with that information what you will. Again, I've been beating the drum for the past year that I think 3DS's time is up. Nintendo's going to keep telling us otherwise until they're done. Remember, the only time they've really killed off a platform before the final Nintendo game came out on it was Wii U. They killed the Wii U before Breath of the Wild landed, but wasn't that understandable? I mean, they kind of sort of did it with GameCube as well with Twilight Princess, so I don't think that's unheard of. But Nintendo traditionally, you know, up until they're done making games for the platform, they don't really kill it officially. So yeah, 3DS is going to technically be supported 2019 and maybe beyond. I don't know. That's what they're saying. But what else is Nintendo going to say? They're never going to say, "Hey, don't buy a 3DS. We're still making them." Like they're not. It's not discontinued yet. Wait till after Mario and Luigi, and then we'll see if Nintendo really has anything else coming. Think about it. Only 6 games between now and sometime in 2019 is nothing. Imagine that only 6 games is coming out on Switch between now and then. That would just be not good. Even though these are Nintendo games. Moving on, we have a slew of other news to get to, including one final piece at the end that's not necessarily news, but I want to comment on if there's time. Let's just get through the other news we have for today. Bayonetta 2 has outsold the original release on Wii U in terms of from when it was released to now. So no, it hasn't outsold the total sales of Bayonetta 2 on Wii U, but it's outpacing its sales so far and likely will surpass it. It shouldn't be that difficult. It didn't sell extremely well on Wii U, and there's a lot larger audience on Switch. So yeah, I mean, seriously, Switch is already millions of consoles ahead of the lifetime sales of Wii U. So I expect Bayonetta 2 to pretty much any Wii U port to destroy the original release on Wii U. That was definitely true for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that we reported yesterday. Nintendo is also going to only be talking about games releasing in 2018 at E3, and that's according to their official press release where they announced their E3 plans. And some of their E3 games are going to be playable at Nintendo New York from June 12th to the 15th, which is essentially E3. So folks in the public can try it out as well if you're in New York. That's also interesting. That's good for people in New York. They've done stuff like this before. But I think what's interesting is that they're only going to be talking about titles in 2018 at E3. One, that could just mean they have a ton of titles to still announce for 2018. That's what I hope. The other is that they're going to be announcing stuff for 2019 at a later date, as they said. I hope that E3 is just not Smash. My greatest fear is they're going to pull a Breath of the Wild from 2 years ago, and that's all it's going to be about. And it made sense at Breath of the Wild because they were in a transition period where they were discontinuing Wii U and moving on to Switch. Switch isn't being discontinued this year, so I'm hoping that it's just jam-packed full of content at E3. We'll have to wait and see, but clearly Smash Bros. Is the only game they're confirming is playable right now. That's going to be probably their general theme because 2 years ago it was Breath of the Wild. Last year it was Super Mario Odyssey. This year, the one game we know is playable is Smash, so that's probably going to be the theme of how they're going to theme out their booth. You can quote me on that if you want when it gets revealed that, hey, look, that is how they're theming out their booth. Moving on, Nintendo did announce that Stardew Valley has sold almost 1 million units on Switch alone globally, and that Overcooked on Switch has sold over 500,000 units on Switch. These are important because these are older indie title ports. Stardew Valley was released about a year before it came out on Switch. Overcooked was released about the same kind of time period before it came out on Switch, and yet they still sold that well on Switch. In fact, Switch is the leading platform for some of these indie games. It goes to show that even if your quality indie game like Undertale, as an example, came out years ago, it could still find a new audience on Switch and sell phenomenally well because Switch is providing people the way they want to play indie games, and that is on the go with a platform where it doesn't feel like the indie game is held back because of the platform. You don't have to go through a clunky UI system like on 3DS to enjoy it. So I feel like that is a big boon, and I'm glad that Nintendo reported these figures because we don't often hear sales figures for indie games. So Nintendo putting that out there, it's got to be legit because they could track all of those digital sales and all that jazz. Now, one thing Nintendo did announce is that we finally know when we're going to find out more. It's an announcement of an announcement about Nintendo's online system, and that is in early May. So not that far away, a week or two away, but it's going to be through an update on their website. So how much of that information is going to be new? How much is going to be retreaded stuff they mentioned last year that isn't still on the website? We don't know. Generally, Nintendo's website updates are rarely notable, but this is one case where, hey, they're telling investors to look forward to an update on their website on May. So let's just listen to them and look forward to May and hope that Nintendo gives us a ton of information on their online system. I don't know why they wouldn't put it in its own video or own Nintendo Direct Mini or something, because I think a lot, especially if they want to convince, this is a system where people spend money. You need to convince people to spend money on this. So, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. Nintendo's E3 digital event has been dated and timed. We always knew it was going to be on June 12th because that's when Nintendo always does it, is the first day of the E3 show floor. But it's at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, or noon Eastern. This is their big digital event that they do now for every single year, dating back like 5 years now. That's basically their press conference. That's where a lot of the major announcements are going to be made. There's always additional announcements in the Nintendo Trio streams, but all the major ones are made at this. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what that. I'm going to be in LA watching that myself and attending E3 and all that jazz. So it's going to be good times there. We also have some sales figures for Nintendo Labo in Japan. Now, it also released in the U.S., but we're not going to get sales update for that until the MPD releases, about a month from now. But the launch week is in, and Nintendo Labo's Variety Kit moved 90,000 units. That was the number one selling thing in Japan last week for software. And then God of War, which also released that week, sold, what does it say, 42,000? Yeah, about 42,000, whereas the Robot Kit sold about 30,000. So Nintendo Labo overall about 130,000 or 120,000. But as awesome as that might sound, Remember, this was only 25% of the stock that Nintendo sent out to retailers. So there's a lot of stock that still is sitting on shelves that hasn't sold yet in Japan. We'll have to wait and see if word of mouth kind of makes things pick up. Nintendo massively overshot demand, but that also might be intentional because who knows how many kits people are going to need. If people are going to buy multiple kits, how many of the extra part kits are available on store shelves. So we'll have to wait and see if the sales continue at this pace. Like if it's selling a combined 100,000 units every week for the next month, well then that's fine. They just have the supply on store shelves for everyone who wants it. I can't see how that's necessarily a negative to have too much stock. It's whether or not it continues to sell after week 1. I'm really hoping it's not one of those high sales week 1, bomb week 2. And that does happen sometimes in Japan. Anyways, folks, I'm Nintendo Jets from Nintendo Prime, and if you like this video, you know what to do, and if you dislike the video, hit that dislike button, subscribe for more content, and you know what? I will see you guys on Monday for our next episode of Prime News.